Hello, welcome to another New Music Monday. Super excited to have a guest. Could you just start by introducing yourself for us?
Yes, hello. My name is Juval Porat. I'm a cantor at Congregation Beit Chaim Chadashim, where I've been for the past 13 years. I moved here from Germany, Berlin to be specific, where I was ordained as a cantor at the Abraham Geiger College.
And again, thanks so much for joining me today. You have an album called Rest that came out the end of November last year, a few months ago. And even before diving too deep into the music itself, you mentioned already a little bit about you have a fairly unique background having where you've grown up and where you were trained professionally. Could you just give a little bit more about that, the background you have?
I was actually the first cantor to be ordained at the Abraham Geiger College, the first since World War II in Germany, which is not something I intentionally tried to accomplish. It just so happened. I was trained as an architect prior to me becoming a cantor and knew that it wasn't necessarily something I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Music, Jewish music in particular, was always a source of comfort and strength for me that I was also able to utilize in front of worshippers. I had positive experiences with that all over Germany. And that led me to think, why not pursue the path of the cantorate as a profession? And so I reached out to the Abraham Geiger College. At that time, they were training only rabbis, and they said, why don't you apply and we'll take it from there? Yeah, I guess the rest is history. There is now a cantorial school where several cantors are being ordained.
Having lived in Germany and Israel and the United States, your background even before the cantorate as an architect, how did all of these eclectic pieces of your life come to influence you musically, both as a cantor and as a composer?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, there's quite a variety of musicians who are former architects. I think this is really, really interesting. And I think as a child and as a teenager, having grown up in Israel as well as in Germany, I always looked up to the British charts. They always interested me. So pop music and just like the craftsmanship of writing a song always interested me and fascinated me. And London was always for me like this town of like immense creativity and also the visuals, the aesthetics of pop music as expressed in like music videos and album covers was always something that I had a great interest in, which perhaps also informs, my architectural background, which is focused on the visuals and the design and the aesthetics. Um, I think in my music, this love for pop and electronic and this whole like idea of being a recording artist, not necessarily a performing artist, is also very much manifested. I love the process of working with a producer on sounds and on beats, and it's one of the best experiences for me to be in the studio and at the end of the day have the sound come out of the speakers that you've had in your head. This is my fourth album, and I think I've always tried to kind of compartmentalize my cantorial hat and my, I guess, singer-songwriter hat, and make them two different entities. But over time, I just came to accept these parts of being part of me and just approaching them holistically. So this album, Rest, kind of unabashedly has a collection of songs that are 100% pop songs with original lyrics in English and arrangements to Jewish liturgy like Hashkivenu, etc. And that's just who I am.
When I was like 7, I certainly said I wanted to be an architect, like many people. And the layering and the visualization of music is still for me too one of the like ways that I conceive of how it works and how I created it. And
Yeah.
wow, never thought of it that way, but I like that. I appreciate it. How would you just describe Rest on the whole? Like, what is its
Yeah.
central theme, and where did it come from?
Yeah. I always thought about this as a collection of songs inspired by and written the global pandemic. So it tackles subjects such as social isolation, the heightened need for connection, longing, loneliness, the power of community, the joy when community celebrates together, the importance of rest, whether it is voluntarily or kind of imposed upon us. Me personally, these were the events that kind of compelled me to seek American citizenship, which I now have. But it is interesting. I was so like upset by what was going on, and I really wanted to make a change. And I participated in a couple of demonstrations, etc. But it also, made me realize that you can't just like keep on fighting nonstop. You have to take a break mentally, physically, psychologically, because if you carry with you the pain of the world, it'll ultimately prevent you from showing up as the best self. And I love to dance, so the song Rest itself is a little bit, has a groove.
Yeah, I'll
I
ask.
like
I'll
that.
ask. I'll ask you about that more directly in a sec. I want to jump back. Actually, one of the things you mentioned earlier was how you kind of feel a schism between the liturgical, the textual, the cantorial things, and the musical, non-cantorial, non-Jewish specific parts of your musicality. This album, like you said, it contains both. You have your Hashkivenu, your Michamocha, you have your Rest, you have your Connected. I'm curious, why put these two things together on this album? Is there a conversation you're having between these liturgies? Did you choose these liturgies and texts with the intention of them fitting with those non-liturgical pieces of music?
The short answer is yes. Like yes to all that you said. Um, you know, kind of what they say about love, music is music. And whether it is in a synagogue setting or in a camp setting or in a nightclub, it has the power to like uncover layers of protection that we put around ourselves. It's like an armor. So whether it is in a prayer or whether it is at the disco, I think in my mind, this collection of songs, really what they do, they address human needs that we all share. We all share the need for protection. We all share the need for connection. We all share the need for spirituality, for purpose, for meaning. And so a song like Michamocha addresses the need for spirituality, the need to believe in a power greater than ourselves and celebrating it. It is a song, traditionally sung, or in the historical context, it is sung after having witnessed an incredible miracle and having survived a big threat. In my mind, when I wrote the song, I always imagined what it would be like when we finally come together at the synagogue after the pandemic. No more social distancing, no more masks, and everybody would just like gather together and would just like dance and clap to the song, because in a way, the work of the scientists or the science community and the medical community and nurses and everyone who worked so hard to be of service to those who were affected by COVID, they ultimately, through their ingenuity and resilience, managed, to provide the vaccine, and we have services now, and we have tests, etc. So in a way, that is a miracle in and of itself. And as a human community, we've somewhat weathered this plague. I don't consider myself like to be super original with that. I mean, the fact that as Jews we still recite that, every night, means that it still bears relevance. And then if you put it next to a song like Connected or like Quarantine, it addresses the same needs, but just in a, I guess, more modern context.
You also mentioned, an eclectic interest in types of music, and the album itself really does show a wide range of modalities. There's songs like Rest and Connected and your rendition of Michamocha. They all have an electronic and driving beat that it is a lot. And some of those moments, it's very dance music feel to them. Then there's some other songs like Quarantine and Atati that are acoustic and piano driven. They're more ballad like. I'm just curious, how do both of these sounds exemplify rest to you?
Hmm. The song Connected, I originally wrote it just me and the guitar as part of just a weekly song session that I had with my synagogue. And originally, actually, and that maybe harkens back to your previous question, it had a chorus in Hebrew, actually. Kol Yisrael Aravim Ze Bazeh, all of Israel are responsible for one another.
Sure, sure.
I forgot about that, but yes. And I decided to take it out to make it more universal. Um, because not just the Jewish people were affected by the pandemic. So you can see that there's like a overlap. There's like a back and forth of like touching upon Jewish tradition, letting go of it, embracing it again, and maybe that's also reflected in the album. Atiti, uh, it's a very personal song. It is actually about my mother, um, who just had a big health threat also during the pandemic, which forced me to kind of go to Israel and be with my parents for a little while. Um, so it was just like a life event that, as I said, it happened during the pandemic. So these are songs inspired by, but also written during this period of time. Before I even had the collection of songs, I kind of commissioned a friend of mine to do the artwork, and it was almost like a race. Every time when I work on an album, it's like I hope I need to get this done. I need to get this done, and it's just like to me, it's like making an album is like a reminder of the preciousness of time and that you never know what tomorrow brings, and that is always super heightened for me when I'm in the process of making the album. It's kind of strange, but it also what drives me to finish it and complete it. And it was just like it's always so magical to have the finished product in the end. And so my friend actually made this image which made it to the cover of the album.
Thanks so much again for spending some time with me and sharing about your album. You can find Rest anywhere that you stream music. And is there anywhere else that folks can get pointed towards if they want to understand more about your background, discover other corners of your music?
Yeah, I have a website. It's juval, JUVAL -online.com, where you can learn more about me.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much again. For folks at home, we'd love to know what is bringing you rest. How are you taking some rest right now? Let us know in the comments. Let us know when you see us in person at the temple. And thanks so much again, Cantor.
Thank you very much, Jason, for having me.